SCORE offers one-on-one counseling, mentorship, training, and different programs to help businesses start, grow, and scale. BizLaunch offers one-on-one counseling, networking, and business development opportunities, and a lot of shop local incentives, among other things such as grant programs and resources. And we like to get in good trouble with SCORE because they got great ideas, they've got a great experience. And so we're excited to kick off the Growth Accelerator this fall. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Steve to introduce yourself and kick us off today.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we're excited as well. So maybe just a little bit of relevant background. So before I was doing SCORE, I had a 40-year career in investment management, largely investing in companies and analyzing companies, and through that came to understand some attributes that are supportive when companies are growing, and also identify some things that maybe weren't as supportive. And that professional background, as well as the over 100 entrepreneurs I've mentored through SCORE, infuses the design of this program. So you'll hear about some of the other SCORE mentors who will be speakers. And so what you have injected into the program is experience of different business leaders bringing their particular domain to try to share with businesses earlier in their life cycle to support the growth. And the interesting thing, and Alex and I talked about this, is you look, there are quite a few resources for entrepreneurs of startups, in those early stages. But when you look around at this stage, at the companies that have succeeded, have gotten a couple of years, have a couple of employees, maybe 500,000, $1 million, several million, there's less support. And so that's what this Growth Accelerator is for. It's sort of that next stage. And we're each taking our professional experience to try to include different aspects of that. So that's, my background and what's relevant to the Growth Accelerator, why it exists, how we think it plugs an unmet need, particularly here in Northern Virginia and DMV more broadly.
Yeah, I think that's great. So when you think about this Growth Accelerator, who exactly is this program for? And also, if you have questions throughout the program, feel free to take yourself off mute and ask your question, or you can use the raise hand feature. So who is this program for exactly?
Yeah, I think it's that, we're trying to meet the needs of the firm, that they've had growth and they've achieved a particular level, but maybe that growth's decelerated a bit. Maybe over the last 3 months or the last year, they're not growing as fast as they were previously. And the owner knows, boy, I know this could be bigger. I know we've really got something here. We could grow, but I'm not quite sure what the hurdle is. I'm not quite sure what's blocking me, and what the next step is. So, from a thinking and a development and a maturation stage, that's where we are. They're beyond startup. They're viable businesses. They're satisfying customers. We quantified it as those between 500,000 and 5 million that have 2 or more years in operation, 3 to 15 employees. Importantly, it's from a mindset standpoint, ready to grow. Really, hey, I want to get bigger. I think we can, and willing to be coached. There's an aspect that, hey, I'd like to grow. I know I don't have it all figured out, and to the extent you can help me, that's the mindset that I think that this is well suited.
Yeah, I definitely want to stress the coachability for a program like this is important. But the other thing I wanted to ask, this group of entrepreneurs, they're quite busy people, right? And so what do you say to the entrepreneur that may be interested in this program, but may find it difficult to step away in the day-to-day operations of their business?
Yeah, Alex, I think that's right. I think probably every entrepreneur, or nearly everyone that might be at this stage, would have that challenge. How do I address this? And we've designed the program specifically for them, and in 2 ways. One, not a full day; it's a half day every other week. So, Fridays 9 to 1 every other week, along with a 1-hour mentoring session in between times. But also, out of the 6 sessions, only 3 are in person here at Arlington Economic Development, and the other 3 are virtual. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for business owners that could benefit from this to be able to do that and still meet the needs that they have in their business.
So there'll be times where people will be gather here at AED, but also be online at times. And then it's every 2 weeks starting September 25th, right? So they have kind of big gaps to let the information marinate and be able to implement and also work on their business.
Yeah, and exactly that. So there's homework, not onerous, but where the value in session 2 will be some of the things learned in session 1 that you then apply in your business and go, okay, that worked great, or maybe I tried that didn't work great. We'll come on to this, but some of the most important homework, honestly, between 1 and 2 is reaching out to 3 customers. So the program, even though it expands, so what we're trying to do is what's the maximum amount of benefit we can deliver in a structure with the least amount of sort of intensive time. And so, like you said, there's time in between. There's 2 weeks in between. There's a check-in with a mentor. In that time, only 3 of those sessions are in person. So that's the construct.
Okay. So for businesses that are interested in it and they're really thinking about it, what do they get out of it at the end of the day? What does a business walk away with at the end of this program?
Yeah, it's what we call your growth blueprint, right? So think about building, you're building a building. So it's, you need a blueprint, and it's practical. It's 4 years. So it's in stages. So, year 1, there's probably some investments. You may reap some of the reward in 2, get to steady state in 3 and 4 years. One of the things important in working with entrepreneurs is to stretch their horizons a little bit. They are solving the problem in front of them, but, if you're going to think about maybe doubling over some period of time, doubling in 5 to 6 years, growing 12 to 15%. So in fact, that's one of the early questions that we plan to ask in that first session. So imagine your business is twice the size that it is now, twice the revenue. Let's assume, twice the number of employees. What does that look like? What do you think are obstacles there? And that question is very intentional, because if you think about a 10-story building, it's not merely twice a 5-story building. If you were going to have to take a building from 5 stories to 10 stories, you would first have to make sure that the foundation was solid and could support it. And you would actually have to build different kinds of systems in order to be able to scale that. Well, that's also what this is about. So the growth blueprint is that, like, where are you going? How are you going to get there? What are you going to need? And how are you going to deliver it? It embeds it in a strategic direction, which says, okay, what's the most achievable pathway for growth for your business model and conditions? And then it has a 1-year execution plan, and actually we'll come on to it, a 90-day action plan. Because it's really important not to just have, a strategic plan, a 4-year strategic plan that sits on a shelf, but to have that track back to 1 year. What am I going to accomplish at the end of 12 months, and then 90 days? And then the final thing is about how are you going to finance it? I mean, you could distill, like, what are we trying to do? If you're going to grow, you're going to have to spend money as an owner. And so you're trying to zero in and with our help on, well, what's the most effective place for you to spend money, and where are you going to get that money? Are you going to get that through your own cash flow, or are you going to get that through external financing? So you walk all the way through that, like, how am I going to grow? How am I going to fund it? And that's what people lead with.
So it's not just a workbook that you just set on a shelf. It's an actual plan that's implementable, that's time oriented, kind of very strategic in its design.
Yeah, and you have a mentor that works with you, and there are times where the peer group that will break the whole cohort down into smaller groups, where there's some good challenges there too. So this growth plan that has action implementation steps in it has been refined and constructively challenged by a one-on-one mentor and by the other small business leaders that are in the program.
So it's got peer mentoring, and then you work with mentors from mentors as well. Oh, that's great. That's great. And I know a lot of our clients are also looking for mentorship opportunities, so that's a nice part that comes with this. So tell me a little bit about the program. Is this something motivational, or is there an actual method that you developed that backs this up?
Yeah, so it's layered and it's architected to go step by step. So there's some pre-work, and that core 4 vital signs is about that. Is coming with some information. If I asked everybody that registered for the program today, what do you think's blocking your growth? They would probably all have an answer. I would tell you from my experience in mentoring, some of those are not data-grounded answers. And when you do a formalized structure that does 2 things: collect some information, it reveals some things, but it also might reveal, remember I said about the foundation? The foundation needs to be stronger if you go from 5 to 10 stories. That might reveal some of that as well. Let me give you a specific example. One of the core 4 vital signs is revenue per employee compared to competitors. So if your business has lower revenue per employee versus others in your industry, you're working at a disadvantage. It means you're operationally less efficient. And you probably want to direct some attention there before you focus on scaling. Because it's really hard to scale unless you're at least as productive as others in the field. So that's one sort of, okay, let's have some awareness of information. Then there's this what's blocking your growth stage. And I'll go into these a little bit more. But we have a very specific process to uncover what's blocking your growth. And I would say many of the participants will be surprised. There then goes to the leadership. I wouldn't call it motivational, but I would say from my experience as an investor analyzing business and as a mentor, there are 2 specific leadership shifts, mindset shifts that support and distinguish the businesses that scale versus those that don't. And all of that flows into the 4-year plan. And then the second half of the program is about execution. Like, okay, I have this plan. How am I going to do this? Well, okay, if you're sort of a professional services company, we need to talk to you about sales management. We have someone that's going to lead that session that's led sales. That there are very specific things you can learn about how do I set up a pipeline? How do I manage a sales and prospect pipeline? Then there are execution programs as well. You're going to want to instill. What's my meeting cadence? What's the standing agenda? What's the information? So sort of plan to execution. Then the final thing is, once I have all that, you've identified how much money do I need. So each of these 7 layers sort of build on them sort of before and during the sessions. That's what.
So walk me through what happens on day 1.
Yeah.
For this program. Like what can participants expect to be doing on day 1 and kind of throughout the rest of the, 6 sessions?
Yeah, so each of the sessions is also sort of broken down into 3 sessions, and there's some instructional aspect and there's some collaborative aspect with planning on sort of 3 to 4 individual sort of subgroups that work. We'll try to pair them by industry, so each person can benefit from that peer mentoring. And the know your starting point goes from that data we're asking you about, some of the analytics, things about revenue retention for your customer retention, for businesses that work on subscription or that can track that. That's often the very first place to look to grow revenue, and it's also the very first eye opener. If you're only at 80% revenue retention, boy, you've got to do a lot of sales just to stand still. And so that's often because that's also telling you that people with a direct experience of you, some of them are leaving wanting.
Yeah.
And you want to understand what that is. So when we're understanding the starting point, the first is, well, how good a job are we doing in terms of retaining the people we have? And then our next question is, if you think about a pipeline, how good a job are we doing in converting the people that express an interest? And then the third is sort of that top of the funnel thing. If I'm running a restaurant, if I'm running a CrossFit studio, how many people are walking in the door inquiring? And what entrepreneurs tend to run to is that third one. Like, what I need to grow is I just need more money for a marketing campaign to get people on the top of the funnel. Maybe, but that's usually the most expensive thing to do. And we're saying, maybe check those other 2 places first. Your base, like how solid is the base? How renewable? What do we need to do there? And your conversion, people that have an interest but stop. What is that?
Right.
Is there something you can address? It is much cheaper to do that than, new customer acquisition, whether retail or B2B is sort of the most expensive thing. So that's in one. At the end of one, I'll talk about this leadership shift, which is that we're going to plant the seed, and this is links to your point about coachable, is seeing with clear eyes. Is what I found investing in and mentoring is there are some leaders that are willing to consider revising their assumptions, but there's some that are not. They're like, I know what the problem is, it's this. And honestly, it's usually somebody else. They just need to change this, right? And seeing with clear eyes is being open to seeing what your buyers or prospects see. And most leaders assume prospects value exactly what they do. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So let me give you an example in a tech area. If an owner is the tech lead, they will often say, well, tech leadership is our most important quality. But maybe when they ask some of their customers, they may go, well, service matters too, account management matters too. But that's something they've not invested in because they thought it was tech. Or somebody runs a restaurant, maybe their background is a chef. Like the only thing that matters is the quality of the food. But maybe you talk to some of your frequent diners and they say, what, service is pretty inconsistent. Some of the people aren't that, well, it's pretty loud in here. Like, maybe we could have some noise. So what is most common among entrepreneurs is that they will, number one, assume the buyer's priorities are exactly their own. And also, and they don't mean to do this, it sort of happens in silence. They tend to think the thing they're doing is the most valuable and that other things aren't. And so we have them go out and honestly ask a structured question to a few customers to get that sense of, well, maybe I'm underinvesting in the things that people care about. Maybe that's why my conversion rate isn't what I hope.
So is this what you mean by when you talked earlier about growth being blocked? Is this kind of what you're talking about? Or is there more things that you think that we'll uncover through the program that's blocking people's growth?
Yeah, by the end of 2, we want to have clarity. We want to have the owner clear in terms of facing the truth. What's really holding you back?
Okay.
And it may be what you said it was when you came into session 1. You may find that it's something else. So that's what we go through the process, and those things are, let's talk about some stats of your business. If you have a pipeline, what's your close rate? If you have a subscription, what's your renewal rate? What's your overall operating efficiency? Because you also want to be aware, well, if you got more business, could you handle it? Like, what is your current capacity? Would it actually create a problem for you? And could you finance it? Because in many businesses, getting more business, you have to spend money before you make money.
Right.
So that's what we're going to walk all the way through and say, okay, well, what really is a constraint? So that's at the end of October 9th. The second session is, what does your buyer truly value? And what is the constraint truly holding you back? And that gets you to, well, what do I really need to change? And then the third step is there are 3 different ways that you can address that change. And it's often called build, borrow, or buy. So, if you have, I'll use a professional example. Let's say what you uncover is the founder, does all the sales and does all the account management. And that's really a constraint. Right? Because they're constrained, and honestly, they focus more on the technical than the account management. They hear back from the client, it'd be nice if someone talked to us in between the projects. Well, one way to do that is to hire someone for account management. Another way to do that is to develop some sort of licensing or agreement where you outsource account management. The third one is you could buy a firm that does that. And so you evaluate what those are. For a restaurant, it might be something different. If you're at capacity, the build, like take on a bigger lease, like that's the most expensive way. So in each case, we try to say, well, is there a cheaper way to sort of test this? Borrow would be, well, is there an extension of a kitchen that you could use on on your expensive evenings, or so that the end of 3, which is the clarity on the plan, is what's really holding us back, what do we want to do about it, and how do we want to implement it.
So that's the first half of the program. So what happens at the last 3 sessions?
Yeah, so then we need to execute, right? And so then we go through every sort of operating domain of the company. We start with sales. We're in a professional sales or business development mode. More marketing oriented if it's retail oriented, but also financial. So that's we've sort of set a 4-year destination, and then we want to go year by year. Okay, what are the sales for that? What are the financials for that? If I'm going to need to add an account management and a business development person, they're not going to pay it for themselves in year. Right. That's probably going to be better renewals in year 2 and more business in year 2. So you got to look at the financial plan and go, okay, can I afford to do those? And if not, what do we need to do there? So that's where they all intersect. If you raise revenue per employee, you're going to have more profit that you can invest with this expansion. That's why each of these pieces fit together. The next one is really the operating rhythm and the execution, where you say, okay, if we're going to have, whether Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever suits the business, we're going to have our weekly meeting. What's going to be the standing agenda? What's going to be the operating rhythm of that? What are going to be the metrics we're going to consistently do? How are we going to resolve conflicts? How are we going to make sure that accountability is clear? And that's also where you're translating the 4-year plan to a 1-year plan to a 90-day action plan. And this is where, and I didn't touch on the sort of the second leadership shift. This is where both 4 and 5 is where this will really be required, which is that the ceiling of the leader is the ceiling of the business. And most leaders that I've seen unconsciously build a business where they're in the center of it and they're your approval for everything, and they're often involved in everything. That sort of business has a very low ceiling. That business can't go from 5 to 10 stories. So you need to recognize that and sort of shift the role, a little less quarterback and a little more coach, enabling the other players on the field. Like, if you're going to grow with business development, you're going to have to say, I don't need to be in every pitch. If you're going to go to a second location or something like that, in a restaurant and retail business, you got to be able to hire a general manager and sort of empower them. But nearly all of scaling requires the leader to empower, to relinquish, to see their role as a multiplier in order to enable that. And that really comes out in 4 and 5. And then 6, where we've got our plan, we've got our financial sequencing there, and then that's going to see what capital we're going to need. Can we finance it through retained earnings? Maybe you've got other savings you want. Some people never want to have debt. Other people are comfortable with it. But we're also going to walk through sort of the landscape of alternatives. So let me give you an example. You may come in a restaurant and say, we're at capacity, and our solution actually isn't to buy a bigger kitchen, is to invest in more productive equipment, because that will enable us to get 20% more output with the same amount of staff. Well, equipment financing is a very different way of financing than hiring a business development and account executive. And we'll walk through that, what the matchings are. We'll have a guest speaker on that as well to walk through, because the most important thing, if you are going to have financing, is make sure your expansion project is well matched to that. In many cases, a line of credit will be better matched, and we'll define that and talk people through it.
So you talked about that this is more of a leadership program, but we're talking about growing revenue. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's for 2 reasons. It's what I've seen, and there are some other accelerator programs, and it's also what I've seen as an investor and as a mentor. And I think if business leaders are listening now and they thought about themselves the day they started their business to how they are now, they probably look back and realize they've evolved as a leader.
Oh yeah.
And that's required.
Right.
But it's required each sort of stair step along the way. Is that, you know, this idea is like your ceiling has to raise for the business to grow underneath. And the two things that I found that are sort of that, you know, unfortunately are leaders that can grow versus leaders that can is that seeing with clear eyes, is being willing to engage in things that are sort of uncomfortable. For a leader to be willing to say, oh wow, I guess technical isn't everything. You know, people's experience of our service matters, or the quality of the food is important, but it's not everything. Like if it's loud in our dining room, I need to, you know, if you know some of my servers are you know not that pleasant, I need to address that. And then the second is the multiplier. I've seen businesses that, you know, effectively just choked because the leader wouldn't give the reins to the people that were around them. And so it is necessary but not sufficient. So other programs will do things that are skill-based but don't do leadership. And then there are sort of independent leadership programs that then don't teach the skills. Yeah. And that's why we brought them together.
So it's combined skills and leadership,
yeah,
building people up. Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that. So you talked about access to capital, that there's a portion of the program that will help kind of match people with capital, their capital needs to implement their growth plan. Can you talk more about what the capital matching day will look like and how we're connecting with lenders and other financing institutions?
Yeah, so first thing is it's optional. It'll be, you know, early January, probably one of the, you know, first couple of Fridays. So look, some attendees in the Growth Accelerator will say, I want to do this through savings, I want to do it through cash flow, I don't want external. That's great. No obligation to participate. I think for many, even most, it'll be, you know what, I'm gonna need some capital in order to do this. And so what we'll do is take an extract out of the 4-year financial plans, some of that information, and send it to the lenders that have agreed to participate. So they'll all be SBA approved lenders. We have one already, John Marshall Bank, the local community banks is absolutely, we're interested. And so we'll send that out for sort of an indication of interest and say, okay, we have this business. You know, let's say we have 6, 8, 10 of that want external capital. And we'll send it to all the lenders, and then each of the lenders will raise their hand and they'll say, yes, I'm interested in doing that. Very, very happy to finance expansion of a restaurant or do equipment financing. Or they'll say, yep, you know, a consulting business that wants to hire, absolutely, that's something I want to do. And then there'll be a one-on-one meeting where you're walking into with a warm introduction that lender will already have chosen, yes, I want to meet with them. You'll know that. And I'm estimating to be like an hour-long meeting, in person to some extent. It may be, I think some of them will be virtual because we want to get to national lenders too. There's some very big national SBA-approved lenders. Yeah. So we want to have local firms have access to local banks, but also national.
And online banks, I think,
online,
as well. Yeah. So I think that's good. So, you know, we know that this program is in partnership with BizLunch and SCORE, but who's really behind it doing the instruction and teaching?
Yeah, all the people are really people that have been involved with the Transformational Challenge.
Yes.
Because we've all had, you know, good experience with that. And I think we all independently came up with, hey, you know, what if we did something for companies a little further down the road, right? Yeah. You know, maybe they Transformational Challenge graduates, they're 2 years, 3 years down the road, they're sort of ready for that next step. So all 4 folks are SCORE mentors. All 4 participated in the Transformational Challenge, and all 4 raised their hand when I said, hey, do you want to do this? They're like, absolutely, I'd love to do it. And bring different perspectives. You know, my perspective, seeing just a ton of businesses, is as an investor. I've also started a firm that's a growth advisory firm. I should probably underscore, I'm doing this for free. This is just me. I'm not stumbling for business or anything, but it embeds everything. I've got an upcoming book that is this idea, these leadership ideas of what you don't see, because that's what I found, is that it's when the leaders don't see something, they're trying to grow, but they don't see it. Kristen, is a great success story. Founded her own local business and exited. So I'll let her tell that story. But is great. She'll lead the sales management side. Brian's actually on the national score board, but is local. He's founded firm and advisor to two other firms. And Brian has a particular series of operating rhythm, so he's going to lead that and around execution. And Rob's been a top tier retired for a top tier consulting firm on contracting, human capital, leadership development, and a number of the things that we're going to address.
Oh, that's awesome. So a lot of these mentors and everybody's kind of been there, done that in their entrepreneurship journey. So that's really exciting to have.
Yeah.
So what does it take to participate? Like, what do I have to do? I'm interested, what do I have to do to sign up?
Yeah, I think the time commitment is probably more than the dollar commitment. I think if someone thought about just raising their revenue by 10% over a couple of years, the financial cost of the program is paid back, 10, 20 times over.
Right.
So that's not it's really time, right? Because that's the thing that the entrepreneur is shortest of. And so that you just got to honestly evaluate, right? We really want people that are committed to it. We've done, as we said in the beginning, as much as possible to make this a light lift, but also deliver value. So it is 6 half days every other week from September 25th to December 4th. By the way, not the Friday after Thanksgiving.
You're going to skip that one.
Like that probably would be a good idea. So it's a one-on-one SCORE mentoring. So it's 1 hour with one of the SCORE mentors, just going through progress, maybe questions. Hey, how do I apply this to my business? Your benefit is the growth blueprint and the 90-day action plan. By the way, I think you can probably use, Claude or Gemini or others to populate those to assist you with putting them in. You get the capital matching day if you want, and it's a small cohort where you have the peer mentoring as well. So your big commitment is really, okay, can I do 6 half days, over a 10-week period between the end of September and the beginning of December, and $499.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. And I've heard a little birdie told me that there's someone also working in the background to give free accounting and free legal assistance for the participants as part of the program. So we're really excited to confirm that as well. So not only are you working with top tier mentors, but you're also getting subject matter experts in accounting and legal topics, because as we all know, your first advisor should be your accountant, your attorney, and when you're growing, you may need them more often. So you'll be able to be matched with support there. So we're really excited to offer that. Now, so the little details. So this program is application based. All you got to do is scan your little QR code here or go to this link. If I could get one of my illustrious colleagues like Yakin or Lourdes to drop the event in the chat, that'd be great. But in the meantime, you can scan this. It's a 10-question application. It's not asking a lot. Just really some more biographical things about the businesses. This program is open to businesses all throughout the DMV. You don't have to be located in Arlington. You can be located in Falls Church, Fairfax, Germantown, Maryland. We don't care, as long as you can make it to the 3 in-person sessions. You'll be good to go. And it's also open to any industry. So right now we've got a restaurant that's interested in participating, and we've also got a CrossFit gym that's interested in participating. I've got some tech companies that are also interested. So it's going to be a real diverse group of folks, and great opportunities to solicit new ideas. So with that, I would like to open it up to questions from the group, and anybody, you're welcome to just take yourself off mute, or you can use the raise hand feature. However you want to do it, that is all up to you. But now is the time to ask your burning question. But while I get this started, while I was thinking it started, can you talk a little bit, Steve, about how these programs kind of help small businesses a little bit? Like what is the driving force to, I guess, the benefit of something, participating like this? in these type of programs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think for the business leader, the opportunity is both skills and development, right? You could say it is about building capability and expanding capacity, because your profits will increase the most if you can have more revenue off the same base of people. So there'll be some things around the operating rhythm in terms of expanding that will also, you can just apply to your business right away. So just as on a steady state, you'll be able to do that. And there'll be things, if you do have if you don't run a sales pipeline, there'll be ways to set that up. There's probably going to be a couple different places where we encourage businesses to start tracking data diagnostically that they don't do today. And it's just really, it's all about being clear-sighted. Like, what is going on? What are the gauges I need to be paying attention to? Am I getting enough in a retail? Am I getting enough people to walk through the door? A lot of people probably are familiar with social media, and your three metrics are, how many people saw it, how many people clicked on it, how many people bought.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, the sales process in anything. Right. But if you're just at the end and go, boy, not a lot of people are buying, like, where is that? And you were saying before, people will run to, I just need to jam the top of the funnel. I need to borrow money and run a big marketing campaign. Well, that's really expensive. Like, if there's leaks in your funnel further down, we really want to avoid that. I've had early conversations with mentees where, look, I just need to borrow money, to do a big ad campaign. Like, well, just don't, hold on. That may be, but let's sort of check a couple of other things that are actually cheaper, that may give you a return and some more profit, that maybe could fund that campaign.
Okay. One of the questions that I've gotten from clients is this one about, they meet all the other criteria, the employment size, years in business, but they are just shy, and I mean like a rounding shy of that $500,000 revenue. Is that something that we'll work with clients to help them get into the program if they're just close to that revenue goal, or is there flexibility there? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's flexibility. I think so whenever you quantify something, for something like this, what we're trying to do is quantify a qualitative sense. And what this program is for is the people that are beyond the startup phase, that have stability, right? And if so you draw a line there and say, okay, that's 500,000 because it's a meaningful amount of money, and just from generally what you've seen, that's somebody that's sort of had escape velocity, right? That they have something. If they're, I'm 125,000 for the last quarter, but I've ramped up to that, my T12 is 400. You're like, well, you there's that qualitative sense of, well, you are a sustainable business, because that's who can benefit from it, not the startup.
Not the startups. That's exactly right. And then the other question I've gotten from clients is about employee size, especially with our government contractors, or, there's businesses that are making millions of dollars with just one employee. So if I don't have those 3 employees, but I have contractors and part-time help that help me out, do those count as well towards the overall employee?
Yeah, I think the contractor versus employee, isn't a hard distinction we'll make. Where is that actionable? And with part-timers and freelancers, whoever, it's really in your operating rhythm as a leader, how you interact with them. It still is that multiplier mindset, because if you're whether your legal relationship with them is contractor or employee, you can empower them. You can hold the reins loose, or you can hold the reins tight. And if you hold the reins really tight, you're capped on your growth. And so we need to talk about that. So whether that's a contractor or employee won't matter a lot there. And if the way that your business works is you have mostly part-time, it's the same thing. Is what's your mindset in interacting with them?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all very good. Well, folks, does anybody have any other questions? One last call. Feel free to take yourself off mute or raise your hand. We've kind of dominated the conversation. Y'all been just quiet little mice in the background, which is fine. Maybe we're just answering all your questions and we're doing a good job, which is fine too. So, well, Steve, this is a very exciting.
A comment, Alice.
Oh, go ahead, Lourdes.
Thanks for, doing this, because I think it will really make a big difference for a lot of the businesses that are out there, and a lot of businesses will benefit. It's a holistic approach, what I love, coming from the leadership to finance, like a little bit of everything, having the mentoring. So I'm sure it's going to be a very successful program. So
thank you, Lourdes. We're really excited as well, and to get it going. So we've got lots of partners for this program, lots of marketing partners, lots of local partners, law firms, accounting firms. So there's a lot of really good hands-on. It takes a village. We say in BizLaunch, it takes a village to get these businesses to grow. So welcome to the village is what I'm trying to say. So we're here to help you. But without further ado, just FYI, the application deadline is September 14th. So if you're interested in this program, please apply. Now, we are, if we need to, we will extend that. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the site. And I see Hassan is typing a message, so I'll let that go. But yes, application deadline is September 14th. So get those applications in. The cost is $4.99. And that actually goes to invest back into the program. So we're thinking of, we're going to be offering catering throughout the in-person sessions, and we're working on some ideas to invest, maybe getting some consulting hours to some of the businesses that will underwrite through the cost of this program. So, that's where your funds are going, just out of curiosity. I know most of our programs are free and open to the public, but our funding situation has changed. And I also feel it's better to keep people invested. So we thank you for joining us today, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Thanks. Have a wonderful day, everybody.